Hello all. Welcome back, true crime nerds. How you doing? I'm good. I just sat here for 10 minutes trying to figure out why I couldn't hear myself in my headphones, and turns out my mic wasn't plugged into the headphones. So, that's how my day's going. Technology 1, Taylor 0. You guys have anything interesting you're doing within the week or anything fun planned for the summertime? I'd love to hear about it. Tell me all about it. I have some exciting plans. I'm going to be getting my hair done soon. Me changing it up. I told my husband I was going to be going blonde because it's easier to cover all the grays that my children have given me in my job. And it's easier. The blonde can hide it a little bit better than just dyeing it my natural brown color and then just like, bam, coming out right on top. And he goes, "Yeah, you're gonna get one of those reverse honchos?" And I was like, "What? What the fuck is a reverse honcho?" It sounds like a sex position. And he was like, "I don't know, one of those things, with the hair and it's lighter on one side." And I was like, "David, do you mean ombre?" And he's all, "Yeah, with that, one of those." A reverse honcho. Trademark, David Seraphin, reverse honcho hair. I have no idea where he got that from, but it made me laugh so hard. I married him. That's my husband. Anyways, we just got back from camping also. It was really fun. We went up to Unplug for a few days. We went to Patagonia Lake. It's always so beautiful there. We saw a bunch of birds. And I mean, like, we see birds every day. But I mean, we saw like cardinals everywhere, beautiful cardinals. We saw some cute little deer, little deer just being deer out there, and big, healthy squirrels everywhere that kept stealing Rizzo's food. Rizzo is our pit bull, our dog that we have. And she's usually really naughty. Like, she is not well behaved. She does not have good manners, but yeah, she's an impulsive hot mess, but she's such a sweetheart, and if you have a pity, then, like, you know. So I was really worried about bringing her because she's too nosy for her own good, but she was so well behaved, and she had such a fun time. So that was good for her. The kids really loved fishing and swimming in the lake. Now, also, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever gone camping with the youth of today. I think they're calling them Gen Alpha, right? Gen Alpha, the kids, the youth, anyways. Our oldest is 13 and she's been camping before. Like, she's not new to this. She goes camping all the time. And we love the outdoors. This time we got a cabin, which was gorgeous. It was very cute and clean and cozy. But her dad and I were, admiring the view and just the serenity. And she comes running into the living room and shouts, "Guys, they have outlets. They have outlets right by the top bunk, and there's Wi-Fi. We're camping." And she's worried about outlets and Wi-Fi. So, like, I can't take this kid anywhere. She got a phone for her 13th birthday. It's been a whole new experience. That was in October. So, parents of teens, if you're listening, I see you. I feel you. We're in this together. Actually, I'd sing the song for you, but I don't want to get sued. So just like pretend that the serenading of High School Musical happened for you in your sweet little ear holes. So yeah, anyways, parenting, that's parenting corner with me. I don't always tell parenting stories, but when I do, it's unsolicited and probably not what you came here for. But hey, I'm a mom. I'm going to talk about my kids. Our youngest really enjoyed swimming in the lake and fishing. She's a crack up. She's 7, and oh my gosh, I never know what's going to come out of her mouth. Second borns are just very different. They're very different creatures, and we love them. We appreciate them for always keeping it real. So yeah, that's all. Today we're going to be diving into a pond. No pun intended there. And I actually didn't even realize the timing of this. I chose this story way before we booked the cabin for our trip, but hey, it worked out perfectly. So that's cool. Oh, also, if you're new here, hi. Hello, welcome. This is Suspects and Spirits. I'm your host, Taylor Seraphin. I'll figure this out eventually. Not today, but eventually I'll figure it out. Let's get spooky. Today we're going to take a trip to Braley Pond. First, let me say, this pond is beautiful. It's located in Virginia, and, I'm from Arizona. So anything with a lot of green or just water is breathtaking. I love the East Coast so much. It's such a different vibe. I mean, I've been to DC many, many times and I'm obsessed with that place. Huge nerd for DC. I love history. I love the museums and I love the surrounding areas. It's all so just beautiful. So, Braley Pond is located in George Washington and Jefferson National Forest. It was constructed by the United States Forest Service in 1965. It's 4.5 acres, which when I saw photos of this pond, I was like, dang, that's a pond? It looks like a lake, but I'm not a pondologist, so I will leave it to the experts. I assume it's a pond, due to its shallow nature. Look at me knowing things. So this pond is located in the I can never say this word. Shenandoah. Shenandoah. I did it. This pond is located in the Shenandoah Valley, also known as part of the where folks? None other than Appalachia. And yes, I'm saying that right. It is Appalachia. So the infamous Appalachian Mountains have a very long history of spooky, unexplained, and terrifying paranormal encounters. So this pond just happens to be located within this region. So right away, we know this is going to be an interesting tale. Braley Pond is known to be a very popular campsite for avid outdoor explorers and families, even despite its gruesome history. This area is very well populated during the daytime, but when the sun goes down, unexplainable phenomena is said to occur. Some campers warn that if you go to Braley Pond and stay after dark, you may not come back the same, if at all. The surrounding areas are very remote and undeveloped mountain land. Behind the pond is just miles upon miles of woods and fear. Some reports have even claimed that they have seen footprints so large that the only conclusion could be Bigfoot. Now, I know we're not here for Bigfoot today, and people have differing opinions about him, about that cryptid, but it's worth noting that alleged sightings of Bigfoot have happened there and that they have even had alleged casts of Bigfoot's footprints that have been made in the woods just behind Braley Pond. So I found that very interesting. Go find me a Bigfoot. Braley Pond is claimed to be one of the most haunted places in Virginia and also in the entire country. That's right, folks. The most haunted pond in America. It has long been the subject of eerie stories and unsettling rumors. One of the most persistent tales is of a reported suicide that allegedly happened there back in 2004. It's never been officially confirmed, but that hasn't stopped it from, spreading through word of mouth and online forums. So the lore is strong at this location. There's also the tragic story of a cyclist who unfortunately died under mysterious circumstances during the Shenandoah 100 race in 2015. His body was found right there at the pond. And then in 2012, a very experienced hiker by the name of Robert Fitzgerald just vanished in the same area and he was never found. He just poof, gone. No one knows what happened to him. And from what I have researched, no remains consistent with Fitzgerald have ever been found. Sorry, I had to put on my glasses. I have blue blocker glasses because sometimes I'm staring at a screen and reading, notes that I have about the story. And my eyes hurt. So I need my blue blocker glasses, courtesy of Target. Anyways, now Virginia, much like the rest of the country, has been home to many historical battles. However, no Civil War battles were ever fought, close to the pond itself, but nearby in places like Waynesboro, Piedmont, and Cross Keys, there were battles that left the land soaked in blood of fallen soldiers. That very dark history seems to linger in the atmosphere, adding yet another layer of suspense, intrigue, and lore to Braley Pond. Over the years, people have reported all kinds of strange experiences here. Ghostly children's laughter echoing through the woods at night, shadowy figures floating over the water, and a chilling, unshakable feeling that something isn't quite right. But the most notable and one of the most tragic stories that adds to the paranormal occurrences at Braley Pond is the untimely murder of one Chris Kennedy in 2003. Now, I read about this online and I decided to look into it a little bit more. So, one thing I am going to mention about my sources is there's a man named Chalres Moss, and he has done some very extensive and absolutely amazing research about Braley Pond. His podcast that I listen to is called What Happened at Braley Pond. It is so good. I highly recommend you go listen to it. It's a 9-part miniseries, and it goes very deep into the life of Chris Kennedy, the man who was killed, his friends. It talks about the killers. It has interviews with the killers and also the paranormal investigators in this case. He has interviews from everyone involved, and it's just truly remarkable. So, if you like my little rendition here, this is going to be just a really short synopsis of the haunting itself, not so much the story of Chris. If you like it, go give his podcast a listen. He did an amazing job. Now, Chris Kennedy, rest his soul, he was only 19, unfortunately, when he was murdered on May 22nd, 2003. According to reports, Chris was brought to the lake by two members of a gang, and once they were there, he was stabbed a total of 13 times on both the back and the chest. After viciously attacking this poor young man, they dumped his body into the water. So, there's going to be some dark energy there. Like many haunted locations, the history is both just very sad and brutal, but also interesting. Now, Chris was taken far too soon, and the murderers were caught, thank goodness, and they're serving time for their horrendous crime they committed. Now, I'm not even entirely sure what caused them to kill Chris, but from what I gathered when I was listening, it had to do with, the gang. There was a girl involved. There were slip ups in regards to behavior, drugs, money, etc. Chris had a really bright future, but once he started hanging out with certain people and one female, who remains unnamed, he headed down a morally questionable road. But it's important to keep in mind that, high risk and questionable behavior morals, it doesn't mean low priority. It certainly doesn't give anyone the right to take another person's life. The story is it's very tragic all around. So today I'm just going to be focusing on the haunting aspects that surround this case and other things that have happened at Braley Pond. So apparently, the energy of both Chris and the murderers still lingers there today at the pond. There is a woman named Shay Willis who is an empath and also a paranormal researcher. She's both in tune with, her spiritual gifts as well as being extremely logical and systematic in her research, which is sometimes hard to find in the paranormal community. So she's not a typical, woo-woo kind of paranormal investigator or researcher. According to interviews from Chalres Moss's podcast, Shay keeps considerably extensive notes of her experiences. And from what I could gather about her after, hearing the recording of the interview, in my personal opinion, she is just as skeptical as she is spiritual. She doesn't want to hear about places before going to them. She doesn't want to know the history. She just wants to feel the energy there. And then if what she feels is consistent with fact, then she knows she's on the right track. So Shay went to Braley Pond with a team of both paranormal investigators and a few youth that they happened to mentor. It said that they help other kids who feel they have abilities similar to Shay and serve as kind of like a safe haven for them, helping them to fully recognize and use their gifts, which I think is pretty cool. So Shay and the team, they headed out to the bridge that led to a dam near the pond. Upon arriving there, she and others got a very intense, unnerving feeling. After arriving at the pond, two of the youth that were tagging along with them got actually physically ill. They were vomiting. Now, understandably, they went off toward the woods away from the dam to sit down and hopefully, let the feelings subside. Shay, who is a professional, was now also feeling extremely nauseous and was kind of caught off guard by the fear and intensity of the reaction that she felt that day at the pond. She had been on numerous investigations, some that she said even some 6 foot, 250-pound men wouldn't even go on. Yet this pond, was unexplainably discerning. The rest of the group had then decided they wanted to head back home, and I don't really blame them. Shay and one other member of the team who remains unnamed, we'll just call him John for story purposes, they went back to the pond later that night. So the kids said, "We're not comfortable here. We want to leave. We want to go home." And Shay was like, "That's fine. You guys go. We'll come back tonight." So this is when I would probably not want to go back personally. I love a good ghost hunt. Love it, love it, love it. I want to go and record for the podcast. It's a dream of mine to find and record actual evidence of the paranormal. However, if something is causing like a nauseating experience, that would give me pause. If something is making me physically ill and vomit, I might just dip out. Like, bye. Never mind. Goodbye. So I would really have to dig deep and grow some cojones to go back in there if I got physically ill from just simply setting foot into a haunted location. So, I mean, Shay, she's certainly braver than I am because they went back to the pond that night. And this is when things took a turn for the worse. This is when it starts to get really spooky. According to Shay, they got back to the pond around 11:30 p.m. She said that as they emerged over the bridge toward the dam, she felt another energy, different from the first one. And she was again overcome with just a terrible sense of dread and hopelessness. It was then that Shay and John heard some splashing in the water, which, like, yeah, it's a pond. There might be some fishies in there, right? Now, she does note that there are also beavers who live in the pond, but usually you see their lodges nearby, and they hadn't seen any that day. So at first she thought maybe it's a beaver splashing around in the water, but what happened next made her reconsider her logical explanation. John had taken Shay and turned her around, like physically took her by the shoulders, turned her body around to a very strange occurrence. Shay said, quote, "In the very top of this tall pine tree was this kind of green, glowing orb-shaped thing. It wasn't like a pinpoint of light that you had to blink hard to see. This thing was huge." End quote. In Chalres Moss's podcast, he said Shay wrote about this in her journal. She wrote, quote, "Roughly 30 or 40 feet in the air, looking as though it were nestled in the branches of one of the big pines that flanked the opening to the path, was a brightly glowing fluorescent green light." End quote. Now, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I heard this, immediately I thought aliens, right? Gotta be aliens. Aliens probably look down at us like, get it together, guys. They have no interest in coming down here. I'm sure that they just eat their alien popcorn and laugh at us. Like, that's probably why they haven't invaded, right? They're like, those guys have enough problems. We're not going down there. So it wasn't aliens. That's what I thought it was going to be. But then I remembered you'd got to be crazy to come down here. It was extremely odd, though. And by the time she grabbed her camera and she went to snap a quick photo, this light was just gone. But the following events made this whole experience much, much more terrifying. After seeing the light, the splashing in the water began again. But this time, Shay describes it as a violent splashing. She said there was absolutely no way that this could be a beaver. It sounded much larger, like a human flailing in the water and attempting to work its way up to the muddy land, which I can kind of hear that in my head, right? We know the difference of like a fish splashing around or maybe a beaver, but the sound of a person sloshing around in the water and like footsteps getting up on muddy land, that sounds very different. It sounds heavy. So I imagine that that's what she heard. And remember, it's well past 11:30 at night. They're in the wilderness. It's very dark with only the light of the moon and the stars, which I love camping. Just went camping. Truly I do. That can be so serene, but not so serene when this is happening. Like, how terrifying when you're sensitive to energies and there was a murder that took place here that you don't know about. I mean, good grief. So after hearing the violent splashing, John and Shay began to get the feeling that something was heading toward them. At this point, they both just booked it. They ran as fast as they possibly could back toward the stairs that led to the bridge that would take them back to their truck so that they could head home. They noped the fuck out of there. These guys are paranormal researchers. This is their job. So they're used to insane circumstances. And this place literally sent them running for the hills. So it must have just been a feeling to get out. But wait, it gets worse. Because as they were running away, they both heard a loud screeching sound. This sound was otherworldly, not like anything an animal could make. Just as they heard this noise, John fell. And I'm not talking about like he tripped and fell because it was dark and he was running. No, no, no. According to Shay, quote, I don't know how to explain it except for he literally flew upwards and to the left, as if something had hit him right in the middle of his back, like using his forward momentum, and he went off the side of the bridge into the water, end quote. So if you can picture it in your mind, there are no rails or anything around the pond, nothing that he could have stumbled and flipped over due to his velocity. Nothing. She said it was like something shoved him into the water, like flew up off the ground into the pond. So Shay, obviously very concerned about her friend, ran to the edge of the water to try and make sure he was okay. You know, ponds are shallow. I would be really worried about injuries as well as whatever the hell just threw my buddy over the bridge. So when she got to him, though, he said no. He told her to run, go. He was like, forget about me, girl, save yourself. Goodbye, run. So as she was hunched over trying to help him, and she stood up because he told her to leave, she said she felt something on her back. According to reports by Chalres Moss, Shay said it inched along her back, similar to how a worm moves. Just no. Nope, no thank you. She said it felt as though it was suctioned onto her, like it had tentacles. She describes it as, quote, psychic jelly, which, like, I don't know what that is, but I'm okay with not finding out. I prefer strawberry jelly on, like, some multigrain toast. Thank you. So poor Shay, now she's freaking out. When she finally makes it back to the truck, John has also made it back safely as well, but she's hysterical at this point. She's screaming that there's something on her. John takes a look. He's trying to like reassure her that there's nothing there, but she keeps screaming and insisting, quote, it's crawling all over me, end quote. I'm sure she said it a lot more dramatic than that, but I'm not going to scream at you guys in a microphone. John and Shay did eventually leave the pond. They got out of there. But Shay claims that this thing lingered for far too long, and she had to have it spiritually removed by John's wife, who also possessed special gifts. She said after it was removed from her back, his wife went out to dispose of it near a fire, and his wife's entire demeanor changed when she returned. John and Shay could feel the energy shift. It was very sudden, very out of the ordinary. Like she just removed this thing from Shay's back, went to dispose of it, and then came back a different person. There's no word on how she did after that. You know, maybe she was able to get rid of the negativity. I'm not too sure what happened with his wife. But Shay, now, thankful to have gotten rid of this invisible demonic octopus-like creature that had attached itself to her, she thought her worries were over. But like many people sensitive to the paranormal, and like we've heard in plenty of these types of stories, this haunting encounter was far from over for her. Whatever had attached itself to Shay at Braley Pond may have been physically removed, but the energy lingered. Shay reported that when she was at the pond, she felt that overwhelming dread, but she also experienced an intense sense of almost enjoyment. Now remember, there were multiple energies that she said she felt. So after all of this, she finally found out what happened at the pond. She discovered the nature of the murder and how Chris had been stabbed by two gang members and then left for dead in the water. It all made sense now. She was feeling the emotions of Chris as well as the two monsters who killed him. Now, Shay and John, they did go back to the pond to try and make sense of what had happened to them. Like I said, Shay is a very logical person. She's just as skeptical as she is spiritual. So this time, they did see beavers, but the beavers were acting very strange, according to Shay. And when they got there, their video battery just suddenly drained, which, if you know about energies and hauntings, they're said to have that effect on electronics. Shay even went back by herself. This woman went by herself to this pond again. On this solo trip of hers, she felt very nauseous again, and she found herself in the bathroom bent over a toilet. The weird part, though, is that she doesn't even remember getting from her car to the bathroom. She remembers the nausea, but somehow went from circling the bridge and dam in a trance like state to the bathroom with no recollection of getting herself from point A to point B. As far as I know, no further incidents occurred, but she really struggled after this. For almost a year, Shay felt very out of it, just not like herself. She was having issues focusing at work and would kind of, space out and find herself just drawing tentacle blobs. So now, as she resumed her daily life, those energies that she encountered at the pond wouldn't leave her alone. And even worse, now they were also affecting her son. It's reported that one day, when Shay and her husband were at home, their son suddenly became very upset and scared and was pointing to the corner in their home. When she asked him what was the matter, he said he saw a man with holes in his body. And the son claimed that this man was wet and covered in blood. In Chalres Moss's podcast, he actually interviews the son as an adult, and this experience has stuck with him his entire life. After learning of the murder of Chris Kennedy as he grew up, as this son figured out what happened at this pond through just like the grapevine in the town, he felt that this was the person he saw in his home when he was little. How scary is that? That's very scary for a child. Now, I don't think, Chris was trying to scare anybody. I think he was probably trying to get attention, get help. Spirits will attach themselves to people unless you're really specifically clear that they're not welcome. And due to the way that Shay and John kind of booked it out of Braley Pond that first time, I don't think that they did the typical, you don't have permission to follow me home thing. Eventually, Shay did start to feel better, much more like herself, but it took a very long time. Since her last visit to the pond in 2007, she has not had any further issues, which is great. That's very fortunate because you don't want this thing following you around for the rest of your life or your kid for that matter. Like, you don't want it following anybody. So, that is one of the most well documented, fascinating, and horrifying tales of a haunting at this pond. Just one. There are plenty of other stories, but this one was so well constructed, I had to include it. If you like this story about Braley Pond and you like spooky TikToks, there is a creator called The Frightening Files who has posted a video about Braley Pond. In this video, he states that one camper actually saw a whole house appear, and after attempting to walk toward it, it just vanished. Other campers have reported hearing screams, feeling icy hands on their backs. Many claim that the thoughts they have while at Braley Pond are not their own, almost like the forest is alive. So, what are your thoughts? Would you go to this pond? Would you camp out there? I probably would. I would. When I say probably, who am I kidding? I would go. I would just bring all my sage and my Palo Santo with me and cleanse myself and tell the other spirits that, nope, you are not welcome to come home with me. Goodbye. So, yeah, I would go. I would absolutely go check it out. I want to go up to the Appalachian Mountains. I want to hear where you guys would want to go. Would you want to go here? Have you been to anywhere haunted? Have you had any experiences? Write into me for Booze Clues. That is a new little segment I'm going to be including because I have gotten some emails so far and they're pretty fun, pretty interesting. I love to hear your guys' stories. So if you want to be a part of Booze Clues, hey millennials, you can email me your stories And we'll have a Booze Clues segment on the podcast where I read your haunted tale aloud, or maybe it's a hometown crime that occurred. Doesn't even have to be a murder. It could just be something ridiculous, some kind of crime that happened that your town is known for. You have a cryptid in your town? I want to know about it. Cryptid in your state? Tell me. Email me. I want to know. And then I will share it on the podcast for you. Oh, and I did it. I made a TikTok. So you guys can go follow Suspects and Spirits on TikTok. If you are a TikToker of the world, you can go follow it. It's also available on Instagram as always. And you guys have my Gmail. It's linked in the Instagram. There's also now a Facebook page for Suspects and Spirits podcast as well. So you can go like and follow there. Go like and follow everywhere. Go build it up. Build it up, baby. And this might already have been launched by the time this podcast comes out, but I have a website. My website's done. I'm all done with it. It looks beautiful. It took me a lot of time, a lot of hard work, but now there's a website and you guys can contact me there. There's an option for Booze Clues. There's links for all the socials. There's an About Me page, and there's going to be merch eventually. I'm getting it. I'm in the process. Okay. But right now the merch is just haunting the warehouse. So we'll get there. As always, thank you guys for listening. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, and don't forget to trust your lizard brain. Until next time, goodbye.